We will now be joined by former Congressman George Hochbergner, who will provide us with some additional perspective on the 2008 elections. Prior to the elections, you participated in a panel of former members of Congress for Turkish Americans. Can you tell us a little about this event?
Yes, I was asked by the Turkish Coalition of America to put together a bipartisan panel to discuss the issues of the day with regard to the Turkish American community. And so I was very pleased to bring together two Republican colleagues, Joe Diaguardi from New York, as well as Felix Grucci, who was one of my successors in my district on the east end of Long Island, along with Liz Holzman and, of course, myself. And it was very interesting in that there's quite a nice turnout of Turkish American, very interested people who came together in New York City. And we had a great opportunity to discuss a variety of issues important to the Turkish American community. And certainly one of our goals, since this was before the election, was to also encourage participation, not only from a voting point of view, but also from the point of view of working for candidates and, really getting in the game. Because obviously the Turkish American community is a very important one in the United States, and it's good that they get together and have the opportunity to get excited about electoral politics.
Now, the 2008 elections were historic for so many reasons. Are there any observations that you have on the elections that you would like to share with us?
Well, certainly, obviously electing the first black president in the history of the United States is a tremendous historic moment. And I think there's a very important thing. It really sends a message to the black community that anybody can become president. And I think that's very important from a psyche point of view for the black community. And as it turns out, I had the opportunity to go to England and Germany after the election on a Congress to Campus program associated with the former members of Congress. And I was just bowled over by the tremendous interest, certainly in the 5 universities in the London area that I visited and spoke to over 1,250 faculty and students. I was amazed at the high expectations that they do in fact have for incoming President Obama. And one of the things that I reminded them of is that they should bear in mind, we only have one president at a time. And until January 20th, George Bush is the president. So whatever your expectations are, keep them on hold until January 20th.
President-elect Obama won by running on a platform of change. What are some of the key things that you believe will change in both D.C. and the U.S.?
Well, certainly major policy changes are in the works because I think certainly President Obama is diametrically different from George Bush and the policies that we have had for the last 8 years. So there will be a variety of changes, and probably the biggest and most important area, obviously the economy is a major area where there'll be a lot of changes. There'll be more regulation and what have you to avoid the kind of problems we're facing now. But also just the whole issue of climate change, a dramatic, very important issue. And there's no doubt in my mind that there will be major gains in terms of the promotion of renewable energies, energy efficiencies. And in fact, that's an area that I have, as a 20-year electronic engineer before my 18 years in government, I'm very excited about technologies that can in fact help us meet the energy needs of our nation, get us off foreign oil, and certainly help us with the global warming problem, which we have to address, and the sooner the better.
Let's switch to Congress. As we know, the composition of the Congress has changed significantly. What do you think are the issues that they will address when the new Congress convenes in early January?
Well, certainly I fully expect that, obviously at this point an economic stimulus package is absolutely essential to piggyback on what has already been done in order to turn our economy around. And there's no doubt in my mind that the Congress, very heavily Democratic Congress, is going to be putting together a stimulus package, and I hope that this is a bill that will be completed in time to be laid on President Obama's desk so that perhaps on January 20th, his first official act could be signing that stimulus package. It'll be good for the world to see a very important package of probably $700 billion to $1 trillion worth of stimulus be signed into law in order to help our economy get back on track, put people to work, people back to spending, and let's turn this thing around.
George, thank you so very much for being with us. On his most recent trip to the U.S., the Turkish Prime Minister held a news conference at the National Press Club in downtown Washington, D.C. Here are some highlights from the event.
On November 14th, Turkish Prime Minister Recep Erdogan spoke at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. as part of the club's Newsmaker media briefing series. Erdogan was in Washington for the G20 Economic Summit of the leading 20 economic nations of the world, although his speech and press conference covered topics ranging from the U.S.-Turkish alliance, international security, to the election of Barack Obama as the new U.S. president. On the topic of terrorism and security, Erdogan spoke of what he called the root of today's major problems: ignorance, poverty, and injustice. He said Turkey, the U.S., and their allies must, quote, become the enemy of hostility, demonstrate a hatred for hatred, and become prejudiced against prejudice, unquote. Erdogan also spoke of Turkey's perspective on the global economic crisis, especially in light of its own recovery from its economic challenges of recent years. The Prime Minister said Turkey has been demonstrating significant economic progress in recent years, with a robust 4.7% economic growth level and a 5-year increase of GDP of $429 billion, making Turkey the 17th largest economy in the world.